This is Marrakesh from the Hitman campaign. I'm gonna start by showing a silent assassin run that I came up with that takes about 5 minutes. It took me 2.5 hours to come up with this run, and at the end of the video I'll show footage of how I built it. I've played Marrakesh a lot in Freelancer, but I haven't played the campaign in about a year. I couldn't figure out a way to distract the guards down there, so I found a pathway upstairs. The shot that I make there distracts that man so that he doesn't see me when I run past. Until developing this run, I didn't know there was a pathway of ledges up there, but it lets me get inside without a uniform and without having to distract the guards. The guards downstairs didn't seem to react to coin tosses or shots near them. It's fun timing the key presses when climbing in this game to try and go as fast as possible. A guard would see me as I run past the opening to my left, so I made that shot to distract them. On this mission, I bring the standard gun and a lockpick. There's items that can make this game easier, but I like using the basic equipment and objects that I find in the level. I run sideways and shoot the wall. That guard starts pacing in the direction of this door, so I have to distract him so he doesn't see me from behind. I picked up this brick off the street just after I started, and I'm going to use it to knock out the guard for my first target. As mentioned, this run is my own creation, but that hole in the floor is something that I saw when watching another speedrunning video, and I thought it was pretty cool. Once I discovered that he's in the stairwell at this part, my run became centered around catching him there. It took a lot of attempts to get the timing right here. He would sometimes see that brick throw, or he would yell, and the school would become alerted and then find his body, and I would lose the silent assassin status. I found that if his body is at the bottom of the stairs, they see it, but around the corner they don't. I like to not use disguises when possible, but I found that it was much faster to exit the school when wearing one. The targets are pretty far apart in this level. A lot of my planning for what to do in this run was done while running between targets. I had a lot of time to think about what went wrong the previous time and what to change in the next iteration. In a few of my initial attempts, I went underground and took a tunnel into the consulate, but then I realized there's a little bit of backtracking involved in that, and so I started just running across the surface to a gap in the barbed wire on the wall, which turned out to be a lot faster. If I didn't have to run between targets and then from the second target to the exit, this run would probably be 2 minutes faster. It turns out there's a lot of cop-like guards in this consulate building, so I decided to take on a guard disguise. The soldier disguise I'm wearing would allow me to travel on the basement floor, but it's considered trespassing on the upper floor. The guard disguise is trespassing in the basement, yet you can freely walk on the upper floors. Once I found a way to sneak past the lower floor while trespassing, I knew that was the right way to do the run, because the upstairs just had so many guards, I needed to have the correct disguise. This basement area initially seemed kind of challenging, but it turned out to be pretty fun. I was surprised how reliably I could beat it without the correct disguise. First, I make a shot to distract the person standing next to the card that I need. I was surprised I was able to grab it with just a single distraction shot. I make my way crouching around the edge of the garage so no one sees me fully. And then these 2 shots distract the guards that would see me when I swipe the card on the door. The advantages to entering through the basement are that I get this guard disguise, there's a propane tank in here, and there's a set of stairs to the second floor that are not guarded. Even when I'm in the guard uniform, the other stairs have enforcers that would recognize me. Using the propane to take out the second target was the easiest option because there was a lot of people around here, and it means I don't have to hide the body. As I changed around what I did in the first part of the run, the target would be in slightly different places on the second floor. But ultimately the timing worked out well here, where I only have to sit there for a second until he walks by the propane. With the second target taken out, I just have to get to an exit. It takes me a minute to get from here to where I exit the level. As mentioned, it took me 2.5 hours to develop this run. I started playing earlier this afternoon and took a couple breaks. I was pretty happy with how fast I could take my knowledge of the map Marrakesh and apply that to a silent assassin run. This is the 3rd level of the Hitman campaign. In the previous few days, I did Paris and Sapienza with Silent Assassin. I've always found Silent Assassin pretty challenging, but since I adopted this methodology of trying to go for a little bit of a speed run, attempts got so fast that I didn't mind screwing up as much as I usually do. As you'll see in the footage coming up, sometimes I split the route into 2 parts. If a run is going well in the first half, I save halfway and then I experiment with variations on the second half. It's fun to master the route in different parts and then put it all together for one solid run in the end. I'm glad that before I started attempting Marrakesh, I decided to film everything that I did in developing this route. The run definitely changed a lot as I was developing it. It's fun to look back and see all the different things I tried and the failures that I had, and how all of that informed what I feel became a fairly reliable route that uses only basic equipment and is pretty fast. So with that, let's switch over and jump into the first time I ran Marrakesh this afternoon. Let's start with the planning phase, where I choose what equipment I bring on the mission. Both the assassin's pistol and the coins are items that you have by default with a fresh copy of the game. I don't like using the fiber wire, so sometimes I'll bring it and just not use it. At some point I did a challenge and unlocked the lockpick, so I bring the lockpick now. There's a strategy where you can fire the pistol and unpause the game really fast to open doors, but that's a bit buggy, or explosives can open doors, but I wouldn't want to always rely on finding explosives or bringing them. So I find the lockpick is a good kind of basic tool that feels like a normal thing an assassin would have. Off the start, you see I open the map there just to check where the targets are. One is in the school on the right there, and at the bottom, one is in the consulate. For my first run, I decided to go check the school where the target was. I'm familiar with the office that target is in, but by the time I get there, they move. My first attempt here is trying to get through that guard checkpoint. So I fired through the window, trying to hit the wall, make them look left so I could run by, but they didn't budge or even seem to hear the noise. I thought I might be able to shoot closer to them from a different angle, but they kept seeing me, so I restarted a few times and tried different options. I've heard that 3 shots in a row panic the guards and make them run to where you're shooting from. From that angle at least, the person in orange saw me. Next I ran to the back corner and tried another 3 shots. I saw exclamation marks on the guards' heads, and I thought maybe they would start rushing to where they heard the noise and I could run past, but at least there I was too soon. I waited longer this time after making the shots, and I saw that they walked in different directions, and they seemed to recognize me immediately upon seeing me, so I just felt like it wouldn't be easy or reliable to get past them in this way. Here I decided to shoot the guard. I made note that the civilian saw me, and I went up this way because if I did make it successfully up here, I needed to explore would that actually be useful. I jumped down the hole and I explored the school a little bit, and I felt that there was probably a better approach. In my next attempt, I went after the other target first. I thought I might as well check out what their route is like, and maybe it's more effective to take them out first and then the one in the school. From playing this level and seeing it played, I knew there was a gap in the barbed wire on the left side, so that's what I'm going to sneak through now. It's what I ultimately ended up using as an entrance in my final run. Here's my initial attempt at being in a trespassing state and trying to get that keycard. I sort of made a random shot, realized the guy next to the keycard was looking in the wrong direction, and I got spotted pretty fast. It quickly became a gunfight, I got flashbanged, and I went back to making attempts at the other target. For whatever reason, these guards just wouldn't hear whatever shots I made. I tried throwing a coin, thinking I could get it closer to them and they wouldn't be threatened by it, but they didn't hear it at all. That's when I pretty much gave up on this strategy. During the same run after throwing the coins, I went upstairs to see if there was a way into the school through there. I noticed that this guy sees me, so I'd have to distract him in future runs. I'd been up to this rooftop before, but I never knew about this path with the ledges. When I got inside the school, I noticed the guards were aggravated because of the coin throwing earlier, so I reset to get a fresh run. I ran over to the right side of the school where I eventually found the door that I would use on my final run. First I looked for other openings, but there weren't any. Getting through that door the first time, I didn't know to make the wall shot yet, so I saw that the guard's route caused him to look at that door. I wasn't sure yet how I would get into the school, but he saw me there, and it was too slow to wait for him, so if this pathway worked out, I would have to deal with him in the future. This door led to a room with guards in it, and in Freelancer, sometimes you start back here, so I'm kind of familiar with this area of the school. I ended up going inside the school and looking around a bit. After the guards spotted me, I decided to do a fresh run to get a feel for where this target would be in the school so that I could start planning how to deal with him. Here's the first run where I made the distraction shot. I was happy that worked as it was a nice, quick way to deal with that situation. And the first wall distraction shot. I wasn't sure exactly where to place it, but I discovered that this worked. But I didn't know exactly what window I wanted to enter through yet. I learned more about the school on this run, and where the target's route was. I explored the outside a little bit and looked at different angles. But I didn't yet have a lot of information about exactly where I should encounter the target. When I got into the school this time, I made a save point. Now I knew how long it took me to get inside, so the target's route would be correctly timed for future attempts. I got spotted right after making that save point, so that's where I learned I'd need another distraction shot. The first shot that I tried seemed to work. In future runs, I'd sometimes get spotted making that shot, but I just had to make it early enough so that I wasn't in line of sight. I got through the locked door, distracted the guard, and went through the window. This is the first run where I went through that hole in the floor, and I saw the timing that my target would have when I made it here in future runs. I saw that he was in the stairwell, and I hoped that if I left the body there, it wouldn't get seen. My first attempt was pretty messy, but I had a close by save point. I didn't reload my save point though after that. I restarted the mission because I wanted to pick up a Metley item along the way. My plan was to take out the guard in the stairwell with a Metley item and then shoot the target. I arrived later than usual and tested my strategy. The target yelled when he saw what I did, so everyone became alerted. I didn't yet know if that would matter or not in terms of the body being found, so I actually just waited in the stairwell to see what would happen, and a guard eventually did find the body. That just told me that I would have to take out the guard and shoot the target before he could make any sound. In my next run, I did a bit more scouting, and I found a brick that was easier to pick up than the one inside the school. From now on, I'd grab the brick as I ran by, but I'd have to remember not to take out my pistol until I got in the stairwell. The first part of my run had started to come together. It felt pretty solid and fast, and there was a lot of interesting moments in it. So I was pretty happy with it. I just had to work out the stairwell. My second attempt went pretty well. The target didn't hear the brick I threw. I got him in one shot, and I hid the bodies on the second landing and continued the run, hoping they wouldn't be found. The bodies didn't get found, but I had to fight my way out of the school. That lost my silent assassin rating, but that didn't matter at the moment. I was over at the consulate now, and this was an isolated area where the guards weren't yet alerted, so I had a chance to plan this part of the route. I quickly got spotted, but I decided to head up to the first floor anyway and check the layout of the level. I ended up with a guard disguise, and a lot of people were after me, but I encountered the target for the first time in this office. I assumed maybe eventually I would encounter them here, so I checked out a little bit which guards would see me, how many would be there, and where I could hide the bodies. I also went to the room that has the keys for the vehicle that I ultimately used as my escape. I found the propane in the basement and used it to blow open a door. Ultimately, I entered that door from a different direction, but I ended up using the propane to take out that second target. I exited at the car with the mission complete, but with no silent assassin rating. I took a short break at that point, and when I came back, I started making more attempts at the first part of the run. You can see he yelled there before I shot him. I realized that would fail the run because they'd eventually find the body, but I decided to just make a run for the second target anyway and test out the second part of the route. I took a different route this time and went through an underground tunnel, which leads to the parking garage, but I realized there wasn't much advantage of going that way. I thought maybe I would use some explosives that I found in the tunnel, but when I didn't need them, it was just faster to go on the surface. Here you can see that my soldier disguise makes this not a trespassing territory, so it is a lot easier to do the parking garage in the soldier disguise, but upstairs proved to be quite challenging without the cop disguise.
Both targets down.
My next attempt at the stairwell had really good timing. I threw the brick and the target didn't see anything, and then I got the target in one shot. If he fell there, he doesn't get seen, and ultimately in my final route, I think this is how the timing worked out as well. I just dragged the body to the second landing, which is pretty quick, and he doesn't get found. Then I can leave with the soldier disguise. On this route, I took the tunnel again and kept the soldier disguise. You can see that all the cops recognize me on the second floor, which makes it difficult to get around. This time I wasn't sure what to do with the target, but I realized he goes into that conference room. There is another person in that conference room, and in other runs there's a cop in there too. So I couldn't figure out the proper timing to make it work smoothly. I did realize that when I set off the explosion, all the cops start running, which I thought might give me an opening to get downstairs and grab the keys for the exit, but there was a lot to keep an eye on, and there's a lot of cops running around. I made a lot more attempts using the soldier disguise though before I decided to switch to the cop disguise. I messed up the timing on this run. I thought maybe he would hit him with the brick, but on the stairs he does a different animation, which took too long. I got spotted, so I reset. A lot of these times when I'm resetting, I redo the whole first part of the run. It's kind of a fun process, and it gives me time to think about how I want to handle these more challenging sections, and it's good practice because eventually I have to do the whole run without any mistakes. I took the tunnel again on this run, and I tried a different stairwell from the parking garage. This one doesn't need a key, but there's cops right at the top of the stairwell that will recognize me as trespassing, and I couldn't find a fast way to distract both of them. I lost my status, but I decided to keep exploring this run and see what happens in the conference room. I assumed the target would maintain his normal route since the panic hadn't spread here yet. My idea was to knock out the other person in the room and then hide them so the target would enter normally. Then maybe if no one else came into this room, I could just close the doors and no one would find his body. But here I realized there's a lot of cops that'll recognize me around this floor, and if there's no explosion, they don't move around very much, meaning that it would be hard to get down to get the keys and exit the building. The stairwell timing proved to be pretty tricky, and when trying to go fast, I'd miss shots. That was 2 missed shots before I hit the target, so the guards would be more panicked. This time in the stairwell, the target made it quite far down under the first floor before I got him, but that made me realize that no one sees him even there. So I do have a longer amount of time that I can wait, so that the initial brick throw is not heard by the target, while still leaving me enough time to line up a headshot. I started taking the shorter route across the surface now, instead of the tunnel, but I still didn't have the idea of getting the guard disguise. In the back of my mind, I knew the guard disguise would be trespassing in the parking garage, and I thought the garage was still the more challenging part of the run rather than upstairs. The more difficulty I had completing upstairs though, the more I realized I should switch disguise. In this run, they spotted me right away when I made that shot, so I learned a bit more about the timing of how that distraction shot had to be made. Sometimes in the stairwell, I'd throw the brick and hit the headshot before the target turns around, and that was the most efficient timing. I didn't get that on the final run though. As I would run over to the second target, I would plan in my head, and I still didn't know exactly how I wanted to handle it. This time I thought maybe I could put the propane on the inside of the door, but I was spotted by a cop. I realized I was getting spotted a lot on the second floor, but I still thought the soldier disguise helped me with the parking garage, and I didn't know where to easily get a cop disguise. I waited for the target in the room, took him out, went down, got the keys, and planned my escape route. This would be the second time that I complete the mission, but still without Silent Assassin. On this run I made good time, and I noticed the target makes a phone call from that corner. I thought maybe if I could get to this corner unnoticed, I could drop the propane and take him out there. I would need to find an angle where I could shoot the propane without being seen. Here I'm testing with a fire extinguisher, which are harder to shoot, and they just knock out the target, which means the body would still be found. Here's me trying to figure out how to place the propane and getting spotted a lot, wondering what a good angle to shoot from would be. Also still thinking that the explosion would draw the guards, allowing me to sort of slip by and get the keys and exit. I messed up the stairwell a couple more times. The timing was difficult to get. It would always be off by a little bit, and I would get seen by the target, but eventually I sort of learned to wait until the target was descending the stairs to the first floor, where he wouldn't see the brick being thrown. For the second target, I thought I could lockpick this door and shoot from inside of it, but lockpicking is illegal, people see you do it, and you lose Silent Assassin. After grabbing the propane this time, I made a save point on the stairs. Now I would start focusing on just the second half of the run until I figured it out. Then I'd put it all together. When the target walks over to the corner, he has 2 cops which would recognize me following him. That made it quite difficult to get to him in the corner. Maybe if I made it to this point fast enough, I could get ahead of the cops, but that never seemed to be possible. I tried taking the other hallway around to get behind where the target's walking, but the guards stay stationary and there's no obvious way to get around them. Next I try some distraction shots, but it's a pretty tight hallway and I couldn't find an angle that easily worked reliably. I tried taking a much longer way around the left side, but I kept finding more guards that would recognize me, and this made it pretty obvious I should get a disguise for this floor. Here's a distraction shot angle that I found actually worked. I still thought I might have to shoot from this locked room, but I realized I would still get seen picking the lock. In retrospect, the target is the only one that sees me and he walks over. So if he came into the room and I killed him, I'd regain my Silent Assassin status, and I could hide the body. This is a potential alternate route that I didn't consider. I tried the same distraction shot again, but I was too early, and a cop on the stairs saw me, so the timing was pretty sensitive there. I made another attempt and I got seen, and I was kind of discouraged about this shot. It seemed like it wouldn't work every time. This was a decent attempt where the distraction shot worked. I put the propane down and got it to explode and kill the target. The target sees me shoot, so I temporarily lose my status, but then he dies, and so I regain the status. But right away I realized there's so many people that recognize me on this floor. Even if they're partially distracted by the explosion, it's really hard to get downstairs. I tried it again and just waited to see if maybe I could slip past and get down the stairs that are near me. But that felt like if it worked, it would take too long. This time I grabbed the car keys first, threw the propane downstairs, and thought if I panicked everyone, maybe I could get up there, get the target, and escape. It turns out in the panic, the target runs downstairs, so I followed him and thought maybe there'd be an opportunity while he's running. In future runs, I thought I could set off an explosion to trigger him running and then meet him somewhere along his route. He's a little bit vulnerable in some stairwells, but he's pretty fast, and then he joins up with guards, and there didn't seem to be like a clean opportunity that would be easy to execute reliably. I took a short break, came back, and started running from the beginning again. This time my idea was to grab a guard disguise as soon as I get to the consulate. But now I would have to solve the parking garage being a trespassing area. I recognized there was a lone guard that probably wouldn't get seen if I took him out and took his disguise. I left the body there the first time, and it turns out it does get seen, so that's why I had to pull it behind a barricade in the final run. In my first attempt, trespassing in the garage, I had to figure out where to place a distraction shot to grab the keycard. I think because I had shot twice there, the guards were more alerted, and that's why they saw me. I hadn't made a save point, so I ran from the beginning again, but I didn't mind not having a save point. It's quite fun rerunning the route and trying to execute a set of timed steps in sequence without any mistakes. I still didn't make a save point, so I'd have to restart if I failed. This time I tried throwing the crowbar but got seen right away. On my third attempt, I found the right angle for the distraction shot and was able to get the card without being seen. When swiping the card though, I noticed I was almost getting seen by the guards in the vicinity, but I now had a way to get upstairs with a disguise and the propane. I still didn't really understand the target's route or exactly where I wanted to take them out. I got seen in the garage trying to swipe the card, making it more obvious that I would need distraction shots to get out of the garage. I grabbed the keys first this time and decided to run up the stairs to the target, but realized that the guards on the stairs are enforcers, so I wouldn't be able to take that route easily. I made a save point now on my way into the garage to start working on this part of the route. I now knew that I needed distraction shots, so I experimented with what became the final angle. The guard's body outside got seen, so I decided to reset because I now had a save point. But then I realized I'd have to redo the start of the run to prevent the body outside from being found. That wasn't too bad though, because when I'm struggling with one part of a run, I find it builds my confidence to master the known part of the run. I got back to the second floor with the propane, messed up a crowbar throw. My plan was to knock out the observer and then blow up the propane. I lost my status because the target saw me knock someone out, but then when he blew up, I regained my status. Although this would cause guards to enter the room and find the body of the observer, and I didn't have anywhere to hide them, so this probably wasn't the solution. Here I tried what became the final solution, dropping the propane and just blowing up the target when he walks past. In retrospect, I wouldn't really need the guard disguise for that, but if I got there earlier, I'd probably sit there waiting for the target, so it's kind of cool to have a more action-packed run that lines up with when I need the target to be in that spot. I thought I wouldn't be recognized, so I didn't take the back stairs, but I realized taking the back stairs would be way easier. I made an attempt at throwing the propane, which I thought might be faster, but it attracted the janitor as a witness, so I went back to dropping it silently. While waiting for the target to approach, I realized I could put it up against the janitor cart in order to get him sooner. This became my first completed silent assassin run, but I loaded from a save point, and I wanted to do the run all in one shot. I found some explosives in the garage, and I thought I could use an explosive to blow up the propane so that I could run to the exit while the target is walking, and then remotely blow up the propane to save time. I placed the propane in a precise location so that I could watch the game timer to know exactly what second to press the detonator for later runs. I put the detonator on the opposite side of the propane, hoping it would count as an accident kill. The target immediately saw the explosive device and went to tell a guard. Maybe I could put the explosive device on the inside of the conference room, but then the observer inside it would see me place it down. And if I knocked them out, I would need somewhere to hide the body. I put the propane behind the janitor's cart and set a remote explosive. The target got close before they saw the detonator, but the explosion wasn't close enough and just knocked them out. I realized remote detonation wouldn't save that much time anyways, so I came across the solution of just putting the propane behind the janitor's cart, which gets the target fairly quickly, which only requires me to wait there for a couple seconds. Now it was a pretty easy run to get the keys and exit the mission, which meant I could now start trying the route in full to get a final run. On my first attempt, I made it all the way to the parking garage, and as I lined up the distraction shot, I shot the water bottle right in front of me, and that alerted the guards just enough to see me later in the garage. My second attempt at a full run was a success. It's the run that I showed at the start of this video. Here I'm showing a highlight of all the action parts. This run was pretty fun to do because of the casual jog across the map right in the middle. It gave me time to think and calm down before a series of precise actions had to be performed in the consulate. 5 minutes felt a bit long for a run overall, but it makes me curious to see what the times will be as I complete the future levels in the campaign. If you're interested, the full uncut raw footage of my 2.5 hours of attempts in creating this run is included as an unlisted video in the description. Thanks for watching.